If you're training hard, eating right, and still waking up exhausted, the problem isn't your effort. It's the sleep mistakes you don't even know you're making. And I thought I needed more sleep. Turns out I needed better sleep. And once I fixed the mistakes, quietly wrecking it, everything changed, including my energy, my recovery, my focus, even my mood. On today's episode of Live Lean TV, I'm breaking down the mistakes killing your sleep and exactly how to fix each one. And stick around because one of these is so backwards that most people do the exact opposite, and fixing it made the single biggest difference for me. And I've timestamped every section in the description so you can go jump around. Let's get into it. How to build sleep pressure. There's a hidden force that decides whether you crash the second your head hits the pillow or you lie there wide awake for an hour. It's called sleep pressure, and once you understand it, you can control it. Sleep pressure is simply your body's building drive to sleep. The longer you're awake, the more it builds. And the whole game is cultivating it in the right amount at the right time. Not too much, not too little, not too soon. And here's proof of how powerful it is. One of the main techniques that doctors use to treat insomnia is actually sleep restriction. They do this by cutting a patient's time in bed down to 6 hours or less. Sounds backwards, right? But it works because it increases sleep pressure. It makes them tired enough that they fall asleep more easily since their sleep pressure builds up until it overwhelms whatever it was causing the insomnia and their normal sleep cycle gets restored. Your afternoon coffee is ruining your sleep. So that afternoon coffee you swear doesn't affect you, it's still in your system when your head hits the pillow and it's blocking you from real sleep. Here's how it actually works. All day long, a chemical called adenosine builds up in your brain and creates your drive to sleep. Caffeine blocks the receptor that adenosine plugs into, so even when your body is tired and begging for rest, caffeine stops your brain from getting that message. And caffeine lingers way longer than you think. Caffeine has a half-life of up to 6 hours. So that coffee at noon, half of it is still circulating at 6 p.m. This could be quietly delaying your ability to fall asleep. Now, we're not all wired the same. Your caffeine tolerance is partly genetic. And if this interests you, there's actually a test on 23andMe that even checks one of the key caffeine genes. So if you're a fast metabolizer like my wife Jess, you might handle an afternoon cup just fine. But if you're a slow metabolizer of caffeine and you're struggling to fall asleep, your afternoon coffee is a prime suspect. So do this at sunrise to sleep better. If you want to fall asleep faster tonight, it starts the moment you wake up. Exercise is one of the best ways to build sleep pressure. Even a 30-minute Zone 2 session can do wonders for how fast you fall asleep at night. But just don't do it within 2 to 3 hours of bed, or it could backfire as blue light late in the evening can interfere with sleep. And if you can, get that movement outdoors, it's even better. Because a half-hour dose of strong morning daylight anchors your circadian rhythm and sets up your body's sleep timing for that night. Your afternoon nap is ruining your sleep. Your afternoon nap might be the exact reason you can't sleep at night. I know, naps feel amazing, but remember sleep pressure? A nap bleeds it right off. You spend all day building that drive to sleep, then a long afternoon nap dumps it. So you may feel great at 3 p.m., but then you're wondering why you're stuck wide awake staring at the ceiling at 11 p.m. If you're struggling with nighttime sleep, cutting the nap is one of the fastest fixes there is. How to shut off a racing mind at night. Your body can be completely exhausted, but if your mind is still racing, you're not falling asleep. That's why you need to mentally prepare your body for sleep by actively winding down and de-stressing before bed. This includes avoiding anything that triggers stress or anxiety before bed, including work emails, the news, or social media, because this flips on your sympathetic nervous system. And that's the fight or flight, the exact opposite of what you need. So shut the laptop down in the evening. And if there's a problem you can't stop thinking about, write a few lines about it and make a plan for the morning so you can get it out of your head at night. And you could also follow guided meditations before bed because it can help dial down that stress response. This is exactly where today's video sponsor, Neuropod, comes in. If you're wired but tired, lying in bed exhausted with a mind that just won't shut off, that's not a willpower problem. That's a nervous system problem. You spend all day in fight or flight, work, stress, kids, and training. Then you lie down and expect your body to instantly flip into rest mode. But a nervous system that's stuck in fight or flight doesn't switch off that easily because it hasn't gotten the signal that it's safe to rest. So Neuropod supports your vagus nerve, which is your pathway that shifts your body out of fight or flight and into rest and digest. So it uses gentle vagus nerve stimulation through the left ear, and it's backed by serious science, including over 60 clinical studies with research from institutions like Harvard and UCLA, and it's clinically shown to improve HRV and sleep quality. And I use it for 30 minutes as part of my evening wind down. And personally, I've been using it every day for over 10 months, and my HRV has climbed from 51 on average to an average of 88 just this past month. And more importantly, those racing late night thoughts have calmed down. Of course, individual results vary, but for me, this has been a game changer. So if your mind won't shut off at night, take your nervous system back into your own hands. You can use my exclusive link on the screen or in the description for up to 15% off. Your sleep tracker may be hurting your sleep. Your sleep tracker might be actually making your sleep worse. So I like using sleep trackers like the Oura Ring and my Apple Watch, as they are reasonably accurate in letting you know how well you're actually sleeping. And they do this by measuring heart rate, HRV, movement, and breathing rate to estimate your sleep stages and sleep duration. And that data can be genuinely useful, but here's the trap. If you check your score the next morning and it stresses you out, that anxiety may impair the very sleep you're trying to measure the next night. So to overcome this, I like to primarily focus on how my daily scores are trending over time. But if your sleep score continues to make you anxious, take the tracker off. Are you a morning person or a night owl? Some people are genetically wired to wake up early while others stay up and wake up late. These people are not lazy, they just have a different chronotype. And this is a fancy word to describe if you're genetically predisposed to jump out of bed in the morning, i.e. a morning person, or you tend to wake up later, i.e. a late night person. So knowing your chronotype helps you stop fighting your own biology. So if you want to find out whether you're naturally a morning person or a night owl, you can just simply take, it's called the Morningness Eveningness Questionnaire, the MEQ. And my Oura Ring uses my body temperature, my sleep-wake cycle, and physical activity to confirm that my chronotype is a morning type. And this recommends my optimal sleep schedule is sleep around 10:04 p.m. and awake at 6:04 a.m. Yes, it's that particular. Can't sleep? Do this, not that. If you're lying in bed, wide awake, the worst thing you can do is stay there. Don't fight it. Get up, get into another room, and do something relaxing but boring. Drinking a cup of non-caffeinated tea and reading a dull book works great. The key is that it serves no purpose. Never give your insomnia a job to do like catching up on work, because if you do, your brain learns to wake you up for it every single night. Only go back to bed when you feel sleepy again. Sedation isn't sleep, alcohol and sleeping pills. So that glass of wine or Ambien that helps you fall asleep, it's the exact thing wrecking your sleep a few hours later. Here's the trap. Alcohol and sleeping pills are sedatives, so it knocks you out faster. But once your body starts metabolizing it, it turns from friend to foe. It blocks you from entering REM and leaves you stuck in light, broken sleep waking up over and over through the second half of the night. So you technically slept, but you wake up feeling like garbage. And this isn't just heavy drinkers. The hit to memory and cognition shows up even in moderate drinkers. So if you drink, the science is clear. Cap it at no more than 2 drinks and finish your last one at least 3 to 4 hours before bed. The further from bedtime, the better. It's honestly one of the reasons I quit alcohol over 2 years ago. And something like Ambien doesn't give you real restorative sleep. It actually decreases deep sleep. If you want a natural option, ashwagandha has solid research for improving sleep quality without the next day fog, and it's something that I actually use as well. And if your mind won't shut off at night, go check out Neuropod using the link in the description. Now I want you to go check out my video on why poor sleep is destroying your body. Check it out down there. Thanks for watching and keep living lean.